Welcome to the 5150 style guitar methods. I'm Mutz Marsh, the Eddie Van Halen geek. In this channel, I explain how I understand and apply the Eddie Van Halen technique. My guitar brain is 95% Eddie Van Halen. That's why I call my guitar style the 5150 style, after Eddie. I have an overwhelming number of research notes on Eddie Van Halen on the shelves in my room. It's safe to say that these notes represent my deep love for Eddie Van Halen. My role here is to turn all of that into videos and share them with the world. My attempt is to stock the playing techniques I've learned from Eddie so that I can draw from them and use them as my own phrases at any time. There are no tutorials here to help you play Van Halen songs. This is a method for building improvisation that only I can do worldwide. I'm not sure if this will be of any help to everyone, but I would be happy if you could watch it, just to pass the time. Everyone, stay tuned. This time I'd like to introduce some of Eddie Van Halen's signature phrases that incorporate the flat fifth on the G string. Eddie's signature phrases can also be described as phrases he often plays when constructing improvisations based on the pentatonic scale. For this lesson, I'll be explaining things using an E major blues as the foundation. So first, position your index finger on the 12th fret. Before we move on to actual playing, let's first check the position of the flat fifth on the G string using a diagram. We already covered examples of how to use the flat fifth on the B string in number 2, and the flat fifth on the G string that we're using this time is actually the same note as in number 2. This is what's called different string, same pitch. Even though it's the same flat fifth, the way it's utilized changes depending on the position. In other words, there are plenty of cases where a phrase that can be played using the flat fifth on the B string becomes impossible to play using the flat fifth on the G string. Of course, the reverse is also true. Which one you use depends on the phrase you want to play. You need to choose the appropriate one each time. When transcribing phrases, if you don't carefully identify which one is being used, you won't be able to determine the correct fingering. It's important to listen to the flow of the phrase and its nuances and find the most natural way to play it. That said, useful discoveries often come from mistakes, so you don't have to be obsessed with always getting it right. However, when you play something correctly, the nuance naturally comes closer to the original, so if you aim for a more accurate copy, getting it right will make things easier. Now let's go over some actual phrases. When thinking of the 12th fret pentatonic position as the bass, the flat fifth on the G string is at 15th fret. Pay attention to how this note is used and how it changes the overall feel of the phrase. How was that? Did you get a sense of the nuance of the flat fifth? Phrases incorporating the flat fifth are often built by combining it with a note one semitone above or below. Since the flat fifth is not really suited for being sustained, it's often used as a passing note that is played quickly. Here's an idea I often use. I sometimes substitute the G string, 14th fret, with the G string, 15th fret. Originally, the phrase uses the G string, 14th fret, but I replace some or all of the notes with the G string, 15th fret. How does that sound? It's a subtle change, but by replacing the note with the flat fifth, you get a slightly outside feel, making the phrase sound a bit more sophisticated. Enjoying these subtle variations in nuance is key. When transcribing Eddie's phrases, always pay close attention to whether he's playing the 14th fret or the 15th fret. Eddie doesn't just use the flat fifth in 12th fret pentatonic phrases, he also applies it in other ways. This is an example of using the flat fifth within a Dorian scale context. I found this approach in the solo section of Live Without a Net. It's something I carefully transcribed from a phrase Eddie played just for a split second. In Live Without a Net, this was used in A Dorian, but when transposed to E Dorian, it works like this. Since I've already internalized it as my own phrase, it's not a perfectly accurate transcription, but it's a faithful application of the concept. This is a great example of using the flat fifth as part of a descending Dorian phrase, so make sure to keep it in your arsenal. In this case, the flat fifth is played with the middle finger, but when positioned for the 12th fret pentatonic, you can use the ring finger to create a nearly identical nuance. When transcribing without video footage, it might be difficult to determine which finger Eddie used, so it's helpful to know there are two possible ways to play this phrase. Here's a phrase that incorporates the Dorian scale and the flat fifth. This phrase is built using the green dots shown in the diagram. The high E and B strings follow the E Dorian scale, while the G string follows the pentatonic scale with the flat fifth. Since all three strings form a right-closed type 3-note per string shape, it's easy to remember and play. Both the ascending and descending parts are inspired by Eddie's phrases, but I've also applied my own picking techniques to make it feel more natural to me. I hope this serves as a useful reference for you. Now this is a bit off topic from flat fifth, but another approach is to take the phrase we played in the 12th fret position and shift it to the major position, which means playing it in the 9th fret pentatonic position instead. When you do that, it sounds like this. How was that? The flat 5th note from the 12th fret position now becomes the G string, 12th fret, in the 9th fret position. This note is the minor 3rd. Just like the flat 5th, the minor 3rd belongs to a category of notes called blue notes. In this case, the minor 3rd adds a bluesy flavor while staying within the major position. This is what I often refer to as bringing out the strong blues feeling. There are countless examples of Eddie using the flat 5th in Van Halen's songs, but if I had to pick one that's simple and easy to understand, I'd say Feel Your Love Tonight. This song is bright rock and roll and a perfect introduction to a major blues phrasing. Feel Your Love Tonight also contains many moments where Eddie moves between the 9th and 12th fret positions, switching between major and minor sounds. Even when staying in one position, blues phrasing is achieved by mixing major, minor, and notes like the flat 5th effectively. To be honest, it feels a little strange for a guitarist like me to be talking about blues, but I hope you'll forgive me for that. After all, understanding at least some blues is essential when talking about Eddie, so I've studied just enough to get by. Also, just to clarify, although I referred to it as the 9th fret pentatonic position, the tonic is still E at the 12th fret. I only said 9th fret pentatonic for the sake of convenience. When explaining E major blues, it's best not to think of the 9th fret as the tonic. The 9th fret pentatonic is technically a C-sharp minor pentatonic scale, which is identical in notes to E major pentatonic, but keep the correct key in mind. Also, this vertical movement from the high E string, 9th fret, to the B string, 9th fret may seem simple, but it's actually quite tricky. Make sure to practice it thoroughly so you can play it smoothly. Yes, that's all for this issue. This time, we covered the use of the flat 5th on the G string, position shifts between major and minor, and other useful blues improvisation techniques. How did you like it? If you like it, please give us a high rating and subscribe to my channel. High ratings and channel subscriptions are my best motivation. Best regards. I will continue to upload useful information for rock guitarists, so don't miss it. Again, what I show in the 5150 style video is just an example of how I understand and utilize the Eddie Van Halen technique. There are 10 different interpretations of the technique for every 10 people, so it's up to you how you use what you learn. It may sound contradictory to say this when I am in the position of posting videos on YouTube, but to be clear, the most important part of music and guitar cannot be learned from YouTube videos. It is important to be willing to use your ears to learn and to be generous with your time. It is very important to feel the nuance and feeling with your ears. Even if it is wrong, it is very important to spend time thinking, how is it played? And try this and that, and it is very important to spend that time. There are no shortcuts. That is why I want you to spend as much time as you can with the notes. That's what I think. The watchword is keep on rocking, right? See you soon. Bye-bye.